FOCAC meeting last Friday, the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation. Some of the money will consist of interest-free and favourable interest rate loans for development. But analysts are cautioning that Africa needs to be wise with the windfall.
With US quantitative easing having dried up and the US Fed set to start raising interest rates, access to cheap money is pretty much a thing of the past. Emerging market bond yields have risen, demonstrating that it now costs more money to attract international funding. That's bad news for developing nations trying to build new infrastructure. So China's playing Santa in such a season arguably could not have come at a better time. But analysts say Africa needs to be smart with the financial opportunity.
What needs to happen as Africans is we need to come to the party. We need to put the right people at those negotiating tables. We need to construct deals that really can benefit us. This is a golden opportunity. We are in a bit of a crisis because oil prices have fallen. In the west of Africa, there's a situation on the fiscal side. When someone arrives with the pot of money, we need to think outside the box and take the opportunity in order to facilitate growth in a sustainable way.
It's not entirely clear where exactly the monies will go in terms of specific countries and the sums they'll get, but observers suggest that the same rule for any investor will apply, and that is the Chinese will be seeking to chase investment returns, which means channeling funds into economies with growth prospects.
I would argue that particularly bulk of these funds, or more accurately China's support for leading state-owned companies engaging Africa, will be going to the eastern part of the continent. Think Egypt, think Ethiopia, think Kenya, think Tanzania, and most likely Mozambique, and of course South Africa.
The $60 billion is to be invested in infrastructure and industrialization, with the maritime and agricultural sectors, among others, also receiving attention. But there's a rider to any success that will come with the investment.
What is important, and this is underwritten the Asian success case for the last 3-4 decades, is what comes with the capital. By this I mean technology, management expertise, intellectual property. Money is not terribly important, especially if you're a pretty wealthy, liquid market. Think South Africa here.
The opportunity is ripe for the continent to boost its economic potential. The key will lie in leadership and the necessary skills to convert the cash opportunities into sustainable assets for the future. Nompumelo Losiziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, the China-Africa summit that ended at the weekend has been hailed as the most successful ever. Out of it, there are billions of rand up for grabs. But just how easy is it to do business in China? SABC's Vuyo Mvoko, contributing editor, asked someone who's made it his job to link Africans with the Chinese.
Our company, we're called China Africa Merchants Advisors. We are based in Beijing, we are based in Nairobi, and also in Lusaka. We just opened a new office. So basically, China, we view China in 3 ways. China can be a source of capital, China can be a marketplace for goods, and China can also be a source of technology in itself. So in these 3 balls, we assist African companies find Chinese technical partners, we assist them procure capital equipment, and we also assist them source financing from China.
So what do you do? Do you go to them, or do they come to you, or you do both?
We do both because at the same time we also assist Chinese companies who are trying to enter the African market. In addition to this FOCAC conference, we are also looking for South African companies that we can assist in China. Yes.
How easy or difficult is it from someone who has never had to deal with anyone from China? How easy or difficult is it for them to really start to initiate any discussion, or to want to introduce their product, or to want to deal with China?
Well, I think there's 2 ways to view it. First, if you're completely starting from scratch, China can be challenging. 1, China is far. 2, China has the language barrier. 3, there's a cultural barrier, both in terms of doing business and just being a different society from most African countries.
Let's talk about the latter. Those barriers, those cultural barriers. What is peculiar about the Chinese, that which African business people should really be cognizant of?
I think at the base, all businesses are the same. Businesses operate to make profit. I think we should start there. So from that angle, there is no much difference. However, we're talking about a 5,000-year-old civilization. So there are ways that they do things that have been passed on for generations. Again, I think the language is quite different from what we're used to. And I mean, it is far in Asia. So I think the culture, it just happens to be different from the African perspective.
Let's zone in on one beneficiary